About it, but I'm here, so
What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Bangers and Mash. Woo. Uh, my name is Hussein,
And I'm Mash.
and we are Bangers and Mash. And today we have a very special guest. If you can tell, we'd like to welcome Zandra. Hi, Zandra.
hello.
How are
Hi.
you?
I'm all right. Happy to be here.
Yeah,
So
we're so glad to have you here. We were just talking before we started recording. Zandra was up and at it at 8 a.m. Like,
Yeah, she does that.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
like when I said that I was up at 8, I meant like my eyes were open and I was like scrolling on my phone for like an
That's what
hour.
I do.
no, I don't really lay around in bed. I get up, put in my AirPods, start listening to an audiobook, make my coffee, feed my dog, things like that. I just get my day started. So
She
Sick.
packs my lunch. She says, wakey, wakey. And then I wake up.
that
You
that
are
is
what we
true.
aspire to be, Zandra.
Well, you'll get there. You just gotta go to sleep earlier, right, Mash?
Oh, yeah. You know what, though, Hussein? I think I am getting there. After
Yeah?
living with her for a bit, I was like, um, I've been sleeping earlier, getting up. And she even commented this week. She was like, you're getting ready faster. And I was like, oh, so
Wow.
yeah.
Are you adulting, Mash? Is that what?
I think so. I mean, I'm supposed to be like the person that doesn't follow any rules. I'm starting to.
Hmm.
Um, I think when two gummy bears are like in a hot packet for a really long time, and then
And
they
they melt
start like
together.
meshing together. I think that's
Is
what's
that,
happening to us.
I don't get this analogy.
have you never had your gummy bears melt together? Or gummy worms?
No, I mean, I haven't really eaten that many gummy bears, probably when I was a
That's fair.
kid,
That's
but
fair.
I've never
Mhm.
experienced my gummy bears like melding.
Monster gummy bears. You ever experienced that?
What is a monster gummy bear?
It's like when you just leave your gummy bears out in the hot sun for a long time and then they melt together and then they all melt together and then they create this big clump of gummy.
Mm,
Maybe that's why you're
that'd be
so into
fun.
cryptids.
Yeah.
You were making your own monsters when you were a kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
Um,
what were your guys' favorite like school snacks growing up?
oh man, recently,
Dunkaroos.
I was just
Sorry.
gonna say
Oh,
Dunkaroos was a sick one. I went when I was with some friends recently, and I was at the grocery store. I was grabbing stuff, and I saw Dunkaroos, and I was like, "This is so nostalgia factor." So I grabbed a pack, and everybody loved it. Dunkaroos were the greatest, and there was like 5 or 6 different flavors.
But it was never
Um,
about the cookie. It was always just about the dip.
but the sauce, yeah, yeah, agreed. Fruit roll up was a great one. Um, Fruit by the foot, which is basically fruit roll up, but it's like a long strip.
yeah.
There were
There's no
so many good
difference.
stuff. There's no difference
Fruit by the foot and roll up, there's no difference.
except for
Do
the
you
size.
both remember Gushers?
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
I liked
yes.
Yeah.
Gushers.
Did y'all ever
Yeah.
watch the commercials for Gushers a long time ago? Like you'd eat a Gusher and your head would turn into the fruit.
Oh yeah. I hadn't remembered what those were until you said it. But
Yeah, way, way back, way back. Oh
and
man,
since you mentioned fruit by the foot, they had some wacky ones too. They always had like an animal eating the other end, right?
yes,
Like a
yes they
zebra or
did.
something, just like some
Yes they
random
did.
animal. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. If y'all watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, one of Jake's favorite breakfasts, he calls it a breakfast burrito. It's a fruit roll up. Sorry, fruit,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
fruit roll up with gummy bears in it.
Of course.
That sounds like the breakfast of kings for a 5-year-old.
It
Yes,
also sounds so gross, even for a
Yeah.
5-year-old.
I mean,
yes.
if you're a 5-year-old, all you do is want candy, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
But
I could maybe have it for lunch. I don't know about breakfast. That's a lot of
Yeah.
sugar early in the
A
morning.
lot of sugar in the morning. You're gonna crash really fast. Do you guys remember cheese strings?
Yes. Wait, what do you
Yeah.
mean remember cheese strings? They're in my fridge right now.
I do not
Well,
like cheese, so I cannot relate. But
yeah. Which is
Wait, what?
one. Yeah, exactly. That's all of our reactions. What do you mean? What do you mean you don't?
Rewind,
okay,
rewind.
well,
We
I
talked
can
about this
give
before,
you
but
the origin story if you'd like. When I
yes,
was
please.
around 4 years old, I think, back Actually, it was probably the last year like my grandfather was alive because he died of young cancer when I was younger. But
Mhm.
he used to be really into these really smelly, old, stinky sort of cheeses. Italians, you know.
That's
So
amazing.
there was this like I don't even know what kind of cheese it was. I think it was a blue cheese, but it was like awful, so awful that my parents wouldn't even touch it. And like I
Mhm.
got Italian parents, they like their cheese. So he I remember just walking into the kitchen of my grandfather's place and just like smelling this cheese and being really turned off. And then he gave me a piece. And like because I'm a kid, I trust him. I'm like, okay, I'll try it. 4-year-old little
Mhm.
me. And he didn't speak English, so he just like manja, manja. And I'm like, okay. I ate it and I was so disgusted. I can't even remember what happened next, but I was just turned off cheese for the rest of my life.
From that one incident.
Yeah. I can't
Oh.
stand the smell of cheese. I can't stand the taste of cheese. I slowly grew into accepting like mozzarella on pizza and maybe mozzarella like lighter cheeses if they're cooked into dishes then and they're
Mhm.
not so like present, but I can like detect cheese very well in foods because
Cheese
I don't know,
detector.
I got traumatized.
If you were like part of the X-Men, would that be your power?
Yes.
Would you say cheese detector?
Yeah, you know, you just I don't know. What's a
Okay.
food that would have like surprise cheese in it?
I'm lactose intolerant. Please help.
Eggs. Some people put cheese in their eggs.
Oh
Can't
yeah.
always see it, you know.
No
I
thanks.
hate that. But I do eggs and ketchup, and she hates that.
No thanks.
Yeah.
That's also a
Just
weird combo.
What do
But
you mean?
yes, be on my side.
ketchup
You
and
know why they
egg.
have ketchup out in breakfast tables? So that you can put them on
No,
your eggs.
no, not
They're
for
for
your
your
eggs.
hash
It's for
browns or
your
your fries or
fries.
home
Yeah,
fries.
it's for home
Yeah.
fries.
Well, it could be for both.
I
You know,
mean,
power to you. Power to
yeah.
you. Don't let
But
us tell you
steak
how
and
to eat your
eggs,
food.
on the other hand.
Steak and eggs, delicious.
Mhm.
Delicious. Back to the cheese combo though. Xander, how do you feel about lasagna?
I do not like lasagna, but it's not even more so about the cheese in lasagna. It's
Mhm.
about the bechamel, because my mom makes like her own like fresh lasagna. She'll make the fresh pasta for it and everything. Growing
Set.
up, and I love the meat sauce. Like I like the pasta she makes, but and the cheese is like meh. I don't like it, but it's mostly the bechamel that I don't like. So
Fair.
yeah,
Fair.
I
And
don't know.
you are resistant to things like tiramisu and cream, right? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I'm sorry. Resistance.
I mean, I'm not too big of a fan of like creamy desserts or like really creamy things. But
Mhm.
mostly in desserts. Um, I don't know if that stems from my dislike of cheese,
Cheese.
but
Yeah.
um,
So I'm assuming you also don't like cheese whiz
no,
because that's like fake cheese. It's not real cheese, but it's
no.
delicious. Okay.
What
And I
about
mean,
Everyone
I've
says no.
given cheese like attempts
Oh, you
like
have.
throughout the years.
Okay.
As I said, like I could just eat like a mozzarella stick, but I don't like
Hmm.
it. But I could like it
Hmm.
doesn't gross me out. But like
Hmm.
cheddar, for example, I remember trying cheddar a couple years ago and being like, maybe it's not that bad. It was that bad. So
Jeez.
Did you
yeah.
say G's or cheese?
Well, I could have said both. But you know what? If you're lactose intolerant, I feel like you'd be the most successful lactose intolerant person on the planet. You
I mean,
know?
I love ice cream though.
That's fair.
What does it mean to be a
But
successful lactose intolerant person?
Like, you know how there's that joke that all lactose intolerant people, as soon as they see a jug of milk, they're just chugging it down right
Yeah.
away? Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I do. I'm lactose, like severely so. And like I see cheese, I'm like, fucking give that to me right now.
well,
But
they have lactose pills. We could
but
invest.
see, I'm not weak like that, you know? I'll train my body to like it, and it
That's not
will.
how that works. You are missing an enzyme.
Well, like an
Training my
anime
body.
character, you know, just the fist tightens, and I'm just like, I will train myself.
All right, Mashal and your cream puffs.
Oh man. I want to
Hussein,
see
have
I
you
want to see this.
seen Mashal?
No.
Oh, well, it is an anime with the main character who is a buff guy, and he
Hmm.
goes to like Hogwarts, like anime Hogwarts,
Okay.
And he can't do magic, but he like buffs his way through magic class.
I
And
feel
his
like you
name
told me
is
about this.
Mash. So just putting that out there.
Mashal Magic and Muscles.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mash, I didn't know they made a book about you.
Bro, I'm inspiring millions. What can I
Yeah,
say?
clearly.
Clearly.
And this guy's almost as buff as you.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
What would you rate this show, Zandra? Mashal.
It is really fun. I would give
Mhm.
it like a solid 8 out of 10.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
I would give it 10 out of 10 because I've never had a character named after me before.
Have you
Named
watched
after
an
me.
episode? Have you watched an episode, Mash?
Yeah, I'm almost done.
Oh, okay.
The first season. There's only one.
Sick.
Yeah.
Sick. Okay, I might have to look into this now.
Yeah.
Now that you
Yeah.
both watch it. Xander, you're a big fan of anime, right? And sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of fantasy novels. In terms of anime, I was big into it in high school, and then I sort of dropped it, didn't watch it for years. And then the pandemic came around, and as we all were like at home a lot of the time, I was like, maybe I'll pick up some animes again. And I've kind of grown into watching a few. So
Sick.
yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
Favorite? Well, I did love Attack on Titan for the longest time. But no spoilers here. But for those of you who've read the manga, the ending was atrocious. Atrocious. So I've just kind of like lost love for it. It's like Game of Thrones all over again. I'm just like, why? Why must you ruin my favorite things?
I agree.
Right now,
Game of
I'm
Thrones
living for Jujutsu Kaisen, though.
Jujutsu Kaisen? Is that another show?
Yeah.
Sick.
You don't know what Jujutsu Kaisen is? I feel like
Nope.
it's one of the most popular animes out there right now.
Yeah, it is pretty popular. Season 2 is currently airing, so
Yeah.
Jujutsu Kaisen manga series.
Yeah.
Hussein, you don't watch a lot of anime, do you?
No, I don't.
No.
I feel like anime has become what superheroes have become. Like it's getting cooler. Like it's getting more mainstream, right? Because before, I will say like our generation, I guess, like 20 years ago, like superheroes were nerdy, right? Comics were nerdy. And then all of a sudden, like the MCU came out and superheroes are now like saturated within pop culture. They're cool. And I feel like within the past like 5 to 10 years, anime has been breaching that gap as well, where it's like it's cool to talk about anime instead of this like nerdy niche thing. So
but I also feel like the MCU, like and like the DC universe, they're so, I don't know, this is just my opinion, but I feel like they're like Marvel and DC, they're doing too much almost. Like it's such a weird web of like, oh, this happened here and this happened here, and like, oh, if we go back into the past, this blah 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 blah. You know, like, and it's so like it's a mind fuck almost. And like I just feel like that's what is making people lose interest. Like there's too much. Like if you just slow it down and build up the budget to actually work on like a really good movie instead of popping out a new movie every month or so.
well, budgets aren't the problem for MCU movies.
Well, yeah.
Yes, I
but
agree
they're
with
popping
that.
out new movies like every month, every couple of months, you know?
MCU, I would
Not
say
so
maybe
much
there's
anymore.
2 a year, more so 1 a year.
There's more than that. Like especially with
There was
shows
a
and
time.
stuff.
There was a time when they were releasing stuff very regularly, but it slowed down a lot now, I think.
Yeah. I feel like I've sort of fallen out of the MCU since Endgame, but it's also probably because Endgame correlated with like a shift in my life where I wasn't so engaged with going to watch movies anymore. But I also feel like Endgame was sort of like the end of a saga.
Yes, it was. It was the end of Phase 4. And ever since then, it's been not so good. And I think I was actually listening to a podcast and these guys were talking about this, about Marvel. During the time of Endgame and Infinity War, the brand of Marvel was so popular, fans were eating that shit up. You know, anything they dropped, fans loved it.
Yeah.
Now I think the brand is not as popular as it was, and they made like a bunch of shows, you know, and they filmed them, but they just never released them, you know. And so now all of these shows, which are subpar quality, I think that they're just releasing sometimes the whole season
Except
at a
Loki.
time.
Loki is good.
Season
I'm excited
2
for season 2. Yeah.
Season 2 coming out, you know.
But
I mean,
outside of Spider-Man, like who is sort of like, I guess he's the the big face that's in like this next phase.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
maybe Thor, but
Like
they
Thor:
lost
Love
like a
and
lot of the big
Thunder.
names, right? So
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of quality, Thor: Love and Thunder was one of the worst Marvel movies I've ever seen in my life.
I
I
haven't seen
agree.
it.
Thank
Mhm.
you. Thank
Don't waste
you.
your
I
time.
agree.
Don't
I
waste your
mean,
time,
I'll
baby.
probably end up watching it eventually if I ever catch up on the MCU, but I haven't seen
Hmm.
it.
Like
Hmm.
there was a movie, Ragnarok, one of the
Yes,
best Marvel movies I've ever seen
brilliant,
in my life.
That was a
brilliant,
fun
Amazing.
movie. Yeah.
brilliant.
Amazing. And then Love and Thunder comes out. I'm just like, huh?
I think
Huh?
Taika Waititi tried to bring that Ragnarok energy to Love and
Yeah.
Thunder, and it was just the wrong tone. And it was just
Mhm.
entirely the wrong tone.
I
But
feel like
Taika
Thor's
Waititi has such a
character was butchered a little bit though in Endgame. I didn't
Sure,
really like what was done with him.
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Endgame kind of it was good. Wasn't as good as Infinity War. Maybe that's a hot take.
Agreed. Agreed.
And I don't like how they shoehorned in a lot of like pop culture references.
Hmm.
Like why was Fortnite in Endgame? That still makes me angry.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, but speaking of Marvel movies, what's your favorite? Everyone has a favorite Marvel movie. We can go
Mm.
pre-phase 4 if that makes it easier. Like Endgame being the stopping point. We don't have to talk about anything that came after, but like
Oh, can I go first?
Yes.
Um, all of the Iron Man ones because I watched them all with my dad in theaters, and so it holds like a very
Special place.
sentimental feeling for me. Like I
So.
don't even remember if they were good or not. I don't remember if I liked them, but like
Mhm.
even with Spider-Man 2, um like I watched that with my dad in the movies, and that's why like I'm just like, oh, I love that movie because I spent
Mhm.
it watching it with someone special. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but
yeah.
we're talking Raimi Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man 2 was good. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. There were some good ones. Winter Soldier, Captain America Winter Soldier
Mhm.
was one of the best ones because I think they had some great fight scenes, civilian clothes fight scenes, and when they were in their uniforms fight scenes. Those were fantastic. And the storyline was great, acting was great.
And who doesn't like Bucky?
Yeah, right? Bucky was incredible. There was another one I was just thinking of that I really liked. Civil War was also good because there were so many characters. Oh, I know. Tom Holland Spider-Man, the third one, was one of my
Okay,
favorites.
That's
okay. I
post
actually didn't see
Endgame
that
though.
one.
That's
Oh,
post Endgame.
I know it was. I know it
I
was.
know, but that one
We're-
is really good. That would be my favorite if we were talking about like about all of them. Like that
all of
is my
them.
current
Yeah,
favorite Marvel movie right now.
yeah.
But
Mm.
if we're talking pre-Endgame, I'm gonna go with Captain America: Civil War, which you briefly touched upon. I
Civil
just
War
think
was
like
great.
thematically it really encompasses like a lot of what the MCU is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just
Mm-hmm.
having all those names like come to like a head and like clash against each other like ideal
Yeah.
wise and all that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't even like Captain America, but I happen to like Captain America Civil War. But I guess it's about all of them, not just him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that movie was brilliantly done, I think.
Mhm.
Also, I know he didn't have a huge role, but Paul Rudd is just like he's so funny and he just done so much stuff, and I feel like he just never ages, and he's just brilliant. I have
Mhm.
nothing but good things to say
I
about him.
I used to have the biggest crush on Benedict Cumberbatch, especially after Sherlock came out, and like I was just like,
Rachel, Rachel,
Sherlock was
oh,
very good. But I gotta
Rachel.
say,
no,
I think I still like Robert Downey Jr. better as Sherlock Holmes. Like those Sherlock Holmes movies.
really? No,
Yeah.
that's a hot take. I think that's a hot take. But
Dude, I am still praying that they release that third
The
movie
third
that
won't
was
be.
always in the works, with Jude Law as well. Like, oh, I love that dynamic. Those are some of my favorite movies. I love the second Sherlock Holmes movie, A Game of Shadows.
Hmm.
One of
I
my
think it's
favorite
on
movies.
Netflix. It was on Netflix a little bit. I think it
Yeah,
still
it
yeah,
is.
I
was.
think
Yeah.
Even the first one's good too, though. I like
Mhm.
RDJ as
Yeah,
Sherlock
he's great.
Holmes. So,
He's great. Um, Speaking of Benedict Cumberbatch, I think it's post Endgame as well, but Doctor Strange 2, I really enjoyed. I know not a lot of people loved it, but there was
yeah.
just a huge nostalgia factor for me, like when Professor X came out and he started doing the mind thing, it reminded me of the cartoon from the 90s, and I just
I did
immediately
like
fell in
it.
love. I immediately fell in love with that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did like Doctor Strange too.
Hmm.
Mostly just because I really like Doctor Strange. A lot of people didn't like the first Doctor Strange movie, but I
I
thought it was great.
loved it. I
It
I
was
thought
loved
it
so
was
it.
well
phenomenal.
done. It was
So,
so well
Especially because Benadryl Cutie Batch is in it. I was like, ah.
okay.
Did you say a Benadryl cutie patch?
Yeah, Benadryl Cutie Batch is so cute.
You're making me think of
That is
Cabbage
definitely going to
Patch
be one
Kids
of our
over here.
hashtags. That is going to be one of our hashtags for this episode. 100,000%.
I can't tell if Zandra, after all this time, is done with my shit or if she's just loving me more and
Nah,
more every day.
I love you more and more every day.
Ah.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be a thing for sure.
Mhm.
Oh man. I'm gonna segue now away from Marvel. Zandra, you've been writing a book for the last little bit. You
Yeah,
want to tell us
I
a little bit about it?
yeah, I started it around the summer before the start of this program, actually. That's sort of when I dove into it. I'd wanted to write a book for years, especially since one of my best friends growing up published a book in high school. And going through that process with her, sort of being like a collaborator, a beta reader, all of that, like it just really how do I put this? It really made it seem tangible that this is something that can be done, especially
Mhm,
since my friend published her book at 16. So
mhm.
but because I was helping her so much throughout that process through high school, it was never about writing my own book. It was always about helping her write her book. And
Sure.
then now I've finally come to a stage in my life where I feel confident in myself and in my writing. And I was like, maybe I'll give this a shot, not even for other people, not even for the purpose of publishing, but to see if I can do it, if I can write something that I can love in a genre I like, which happens to be fantasy. So,
Sick.
yeah,
Do you have a title for your novel?
I do. It's called God Will.
God
Um,
will.
Yeah, it's a fantasy novel though, with an entirely made up religion. Um, but
Sick.
essentially, the title of God will is supposed to evoke the word of goodwill and whether God's will can be good or is good, and that question of morality. Um, I took a philosophy minor in my undergrad, and a lot of that
Cool.
sort of has seeped into the pages of my novel, with discussions about like morality and religion and things like that.
Sick. Sick. Do you have a timeline in mind
Uh,
for your book, or are you just kind of just working
it's
at it and then just whenever it gets done, it gets done?
Yeah, it's mostly whenever it gets done, it gets done.
Mhm.
It's hard for me to find the time and the focus during school.
Yeah,
Um,
fair.
but when I do get in the mood to write and I have inspiration, I'm able to write like large chunks at a time.
Hmm.
Uh, I am currently just over 50,000 words.
Oh
Um,
wow, that's a
but
thesis.
yeah, it's long. It's like over 100 pages, but I
Mhm.
feel like I've barely scratched the surface of the story I want to tell. Um,
Do you have like a storyline in mind? Do you have like a plot? Do you know how it's gonna end type of thing?
Yep, that's all
Sick.
been designed, and since it's a
Sick.
fantasy world, it's been a lot of planning. So half the time I'll
Hmm.
be writing, and then I realize I want to flesh out a concept more, so I'll stop writing and go back into the planning stage. Um,
Hmm.
but it follows the story of three characters who sort of have their lives intertwined, um, and they all embody very different aspects of um, I don't even know how to phrase this, but living in this world where religion is so prominent and where gods are
Hmm.
present everyday people, it's they sort of embody different stances on living in this society, and they experience a lot of different changes and of just about the world. I don't know.
Sick.
Yeah.
Sick. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to read your book when it's done. If you
I
need a,
mean, if I publish it, who knows? Maybe just a personal project. But Mash has actually read a little bit of it.
can you give us some feedback, Mesh, on her what you
Um,
think?
well, I don't know if I want to do that here, but like
Hmm. Fair.
I'm very proud of her. Like it's so
Yeah, this
difficult
is a huge
to
project.
it's so difficult to sit down and actually not just want to do something, but to put in the time and effort to actually do it, especially with
Hmm.
something like writing, which is so self-critical, I think, and like it's something you
Hmm.
can really beat yourself up about. So it's not like it's just as someone who like just spent a lot of their life doing this too. It's like it's almost impossible to sit down and actually like put your thoughts on paper like this and have the intent to share it as well. It's so vulnerable.
Yes.
So it's something to be very proud of. Yeah.
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 And also
If
it's
you
fun. I don't know
yeah.
if any either of you just write, but it's fun to write, especially to write things that you would want to read, because I'm an avid reader. I like reading my fantasy books with large fantasy worlds that are I don't even know how to phrase this, but if you've read any Brandon Sanderson, his fantasy worlds are so large and so vast and so spectacular, but they're also deeply rooted in this idea of like logic that he develops. And it's like all can be scientifically explained in the context of his world, which is like fascinating. And that's the pinnacle of fantasy for me, to be able to explain like fantastical elements logically in a way that makes sense in a fantastical setting. So it's like, while I can never world build on that level, it's just it's a goal, and it's something that I enjoy reading, so I want to give it a shot myself.
Yeah. Oh. And I think there are some great novels out there that I think do a good job of world building, and I think that can make or break your story. You know, so power to you. Power to you, honestly. I'm so excited for you. And even if you don't publish it, I'm gonna try and steal a copy.
By the time it's done, I don't know if you'll want to. I think it's gonna be a monster in terms of length.
Oh, so. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Even better. I'm so about it. Just a heads up, team, we have 7 minutes left. Can y'all see the time?
Oh.
Yes.
Go for you. Oh, sick.
Time sure does fly.
Yeah, right. Audience members, just so you know, Zandra was a little bit nervous to come on here. She didn't know like what it was gonna be like, and we told her like this is what we do. We literally just chit chat about life, about things, you know, about books and movies and whatnot. So tell her in the comments that she did a great job today, please, because I think you're a fantastic guest. Agree, Mash?
Oh, I think it went super, super well. Time flew by super fast. I wasn't expecting us to have only 7 minutes left.
Percy actually making an appearance. Sorry. Look at him.
Oh my
God. In the back.
Percy!
He can't hear you.
Oh.
He can't hear us, but he's so cute. So I guess we
had
2 surprise guests for y'all.
Yeah.
We have this joke where we think that Percy's he talks in a Yorkshire accent. He's a Yorkshire Terrier. So
what does the accent sound like? Please tell me.
Mash does a great impression.
I can only do like a really proper British one, but like so like if he has to piss, he's just like, "Mother, father, I need to go potty. Could you please take me outside for a walk? Where do you think you're taking my ball? That's my ball. Please put it back."
I could see him doing it.
Yeah, it's hilarious whenever Mash is over, and
Father,
just embodies
you've been
this
gone
voice.
for a whole week. Why are you only here two nights a week? It makes no sense to me. You're going on long work trips, and then
yeah. The joke is that Mash is the father.
I figured.
So, yeah.
I figured. Do you want to tell us where the name Percy comes from?
Percy Jackson. A lot of people pick up on that, especially if they're familiar with the books. So sometimes when he's in trouble, I call him Perseus. But, just that was the series that got me into reading growing up. I hated reading until I was about 10 years old, and after picking up Percy Jackson, I became obsessed. Before that, I'd never really read any fantasy or a series with fantastical elements, so it was a game changer. And as my
Rick
introduction,
Riordan, right? Author was Rick Riordan?
Yeah, Rick Riordan. Yeah. So
right, yeah.
Funny enough, there is a new Percy Jackson book coming out, honestly, I think like today or in a couple days. Yeah. And it's like college-aged Percy Jackson. I haven't purchased it yet, but I plan to read it eventually, and it's just very interesting to see the character grow with me as well.
The Chalice of the Gods?
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, it's the series that got me into reading, so it always has this like place in my heart.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. And they're making a new, or they've already made a new show or movie about Percy Jackson?
It's not out yet. They're making a Disney Plus series with Rick Riordan. And it's set to come out in December, I'm pretty sure. So that's exciting as well. I hope it's a faithful adaptation because the author is working on it, and I think Percy Jackson deserves a faithful adaptation at this point.
Yeah.
It sounds like you weren't a fan of Logan Lerman's Percy Jackson.
I don't it's not necessarily that I dislike those movies. They are
Mm.
perfectly fine and enjoyable to watch as like disconnected from the novels. But when you start comparing them, they just don't embody what the novels embody. They don't tell
Agreed.
like the same story.
Agreed.
They do, I guess, on the surface level, but they're just fundamentally different beasts.
Logan Lerman.
He's a cute
Yeah, but
guy,
he's
I'm
too
not gonna lie.
old for like 12-year-old Percy Jackson in the first book.
Yeah, but he was
That's
so
fair.
cute when it did first come out, and I was watching it, and I was just like, whoa, you know, like, yeah. But I feel like this year, 2023, has been a really good year for media in general, like with TV shows and movies coming out. Like I remember we've had some past years where it was just disappointment after disappointment, but like this year has been a good one. It's been a good one. With the One Piece adaptation, and then Oppenheimer, Barbie. There's so much more that came out this year that is
Circling back to One Piece, if you have any inkling, any interest in One Piece, watch the Netflix show. It is a good adaptation. And as a One Piece fan, or at least a prior One Piece fan, I would definitely recommend it if you're interested. And then if you don't like it, if it's too wacky for you, that's okay too. It's not for everyone, but it's definitely easier to digest than the anime. So, and it's faithful, it's fun. All of the characters are like amazing casting. And because they're not any noticeable like well-known actors, they can really like embody their roles as opposed to like being known as that actor playing a role, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely, that makes sense.
Yeah. And funny enough, one of the characters, Nami, I think it's Paul Rudd's daughter.
Oh,
Paul Rudd.
Really?
Yeah. Emily Rudd. Yeah. Unless the
Okay.
last name is just the same and I made that association myself. So
Okay, now I'm gonna have to look this up.
Yeah.
I didn't put two and two together at all.
Okay, we're just about out of time now. Friends, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. We appreciate you. 262, you know that this is made for you. You have our heart. Our hearts are with you. We love you. We appreciate y'all's support so much. And our friends and family out there who are watching as well. We love you so much. Tell us your favorite Marvel movie. Tell us your favorite anime. And tell us you love us, please, because we need the ego boost. So
we need that sometimes. Also, I feel like, I don't know if you agree, Hussein, but this was like our most intellectual episode yet.
100%.
Yeah, I feel like we're always talking some dumb shit, and then Zandra comes in, and it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, thoughts.
What do you mean? This has been so nerdy. You literally brought me on, and we've been talking nerd culture. So
yes, 100% agree with both of you.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you
Bye,
for being
folks.
here.
One love.
One love.